Yeah, we'll get back. See, in the first part, I've just given you a very interesting case taken by one of my assistant. And in the second part, part two, we will try to understand the mentals of fluoric acid, followed by the physical syphilitic symptoms of fluoric acid. So, to understand the mind, you need to interpret this particular image. Now, what do you see here? You have fluoric acid, and a stainless spoon is dipped into fluoric acid. Now, what you see is within few seconds, that stainless steel spoon dissolves. Okay, meaning it corrodes. You know, corroding is a very important property of an acid. This corrosion is very characteristic in fluoric acid. It is a very strong acid. Now, keeping this character in mind, if you try to analyze the mind of fluoric acid, any person who is in contact with fluoric acid will be corroded. Now, meaning what exactly I want to try to tell you here is this property we can understand at the mental level, and this property we can also understand at the physical level. So I've tried to explain it giving a different angle and hope you will appreciate. So what I was trying to tell you is when I say fluoric acid, the corroding nature at the level of mind, what I want to try to emphasize here is anybody who is associated with fluoric acid, they get corroded, meaning they get spoiled. Fine. Now what exactly I'm trying to tell you here is, see, basically fluoric acid is a person who is very selfish. Okay, and he is a very egoistic person. See, what corroding thing I'm trying to highlight here is when you come in contact with a fluoric acid person, either because of his selfish nature or either because of his egoistic nature, that self-centric nature, he is a man who will not give scope for others to or people around him to have a healthy kind of a life. He is very materialistic, money-minded constitution. For him, what matters is how he looks. I'll just share a small case here so that our learning becomes more fruitful. Recently, we had a lady, who was trying to describe her about her husband. Husband who would never care about this particular lady. She is sick, she's got fever, he's least bothered. He wants a kind of food, which is nutritious, which is organic, whatever it is. He wants her to cook, and he's more into the way he looks. He dresses very well. He should be some 60 plus, but he dresses very well, very neat, and all those things. But he never bothers about a lady like her. Like for example, if she is sick, wife, she is sick, he is least bothered. What he expects is she has to be the same, prepare the same kind of a food, and he never asks how you are, you have fever, should I take you to doctor? Nothing. So this is the corroding nature, this is the suffocating nature that I was trying to tell you in fluoric acid. So they're very selfish people, self-centric people, materialistic people, egoistic people, and people who have a lot of hatred. Now probably after understanding fluoric acid, you might start thinking, unfortunately or fortunately, like many of the husbands, many of your far relatives, or If you're fortunate, you might get a patient like this tomorrow in your clinic. And I will appreciate the fact if you understand the case and help the case giving the rights minimum. So self-centric, egoistic, money-minded, and he is a person who has got a lot of hatred. Okay, and whom do they hate? See, there's a beautiful rubric in your material. I mean, in your repertory. Hatred, unreasonable of absent person. So some person has done something to him, though he is not present. Fluoric acid will have hatred towards that person who is absent. Very only remedy, if I'm right, and very dominating, very dictatorial. Many times we think of some selfish remedies. Fine, we know plat, we know Naxwamika. We think of those remedies, but you should also remember fluoric acid is again a very dominating personality. They got a lot of aversion. Now, what are those things that they have an aversion to? You have a rubric in your repertory, aversion. Fluoric acid has an aversion to family. Fluoric acid has an aversion to parents. Yeah, wife is a family, fine. And he also has an aversion to business. Now, aversion in the next level goes to the extent of indifference. Okay. For those who are interested, aversion is more psychosis. Indifference is more syphilis. Indifference is the presence may not matter to you, they may not care, they may not bother. Okay. So aversion and higher than aversion is more of indifference. So indifference to others and same indifference to family, indifference to parents, indifference to wife, and indifference to business. These are few things that you get to see in fluoric acid. Okay. And see, many of the constitutions we know that they are homesick, they want to be at home. Fluoric acid is one constitution who always want to go away from home. And here I would like to share what I have learned from Vijay sir. Sir says fluoric acid people they do not have that attachment even to their home. They are the people who would like to always keep roaming and enjoying. They want to be very free. Now, what do they want to be free from is also a question. So they want to be free from responsibilities. We'll discuss that a little later. Free from family pressures, free from those bonding, free from the bonding of kids, free from the bonding of the wife, the parents, and they want to be very free. Okay. And another beautiful word that I've learned from Sir is they are the people who don't have an anchor. If you remember, this we use in sea. Ship holds it. So this holding thing, this anchoring thing, is predominantly missing in a fluoric acid constitution. Okay, they want to be free. There is no anchor. So this is something that you have to remember. Here again, I recall another simple case. I did not prescribe here, but it's a very good learning. Once one of my senior had come to college, and he came unexpectedly, and that time I was also expecting an insurance agent to meet me. When the insurance agent was about to meet, I was just trying to tell him, see, I'm going to meet the insurance agent. Please wait for a few minutes. Then he told, Vijay, why you want to do insurance? You know, if you do insurance, do you think the insurance will benefit you? After you die, the insurance money will go to your family. I am also a married man, but I have never done any insurance because insurance will go to family. Insurance will go to my wife after I die. So I don't believe in all that kind of money. I am a man who believes in today and I want to live life to the fullest. You are getting the seriousness of the statement. I did not prescribe fluoric acid to him because he did not come for consultation. It was a casual talk. But you know how it is. You should never ever miss an opportunity to learn. And though he was a friend, a senior who came to me for some reason, that attitude was very clear of a fluoric acid person, that he wanted to be free and he wanted to live life to the fullest extent. Okay, no anchoring, no attachment. This is very, very, very important. Probably this is what I was also trying to tell you here in fluoric acid. They are the kind of people who doesn't like or who doesn't believe in marriage, in the institution of marriage. Not that fluoric acid may not marry, he might marry, fine, because the case that we discussed is also a case of fluoric acid who is married. But though he is married, he has multiple, meaning he has had relationships outside the marriage, fine. So what I am trying to highlight here is you have a rubric in your repertory which says idea of marriage is unendurable. I'll repeat this rubric, beautiful rubric. Idea of marriage is unendurable. Now, what exactly you understand from this rubric? Even the thought, even the idea of getting married somebody, they will not like it. You have some 8 remedies starting with Medorinum, Naxvomica, Staphysagrea, Lachesis, Lycopodium, and of course you also have fluoric acid there. Now, I have used this remedy, I have used this rubric beautifully in many cases, and each remedy has his or her own reason why they don't want to get married. Okay, I don't know if this is the right platform to discuss, or we can take it up some other day where I can give you all those cases and I can give you the remedies. But we'll focus today on fluoric acid. Now, any guess why fluoric acid doesn't want to marry, or why he feels the idea of marriage is unendurable? See, there are a few reasons. To top, first reason, which many of you would have started thinking, the first reason could be that he, see, marriage is a huge responsibility. He doesn't want to take up responsibility. That could be one. And the second very important reason that you have in fluoric acid is, see, committing to a lady throughout life is something that a fluoric acid can never ever imagine in his life. For fluoric acid, he sees each woman to be very beautiful. Somebody's eyes is beautiful, some other part is beautiful, and in his wildest dream, he cannot think of he living with a single lady, physically, emotionally with a single lady. That is something that is impossible. So tomorrow you have a person who is very carefree. You have a rubric libertinism. Libertinism wants freedom. And he says, Dr. Saab, do you think I'm a fool? For the sake of, I can't commit into marriage. Fine. There are so many beautiful women out there. Why should I, commit myself to a single lady? I can't do this. Fine. So, this is something that is very, very important. Idea of marriage feels unendurable. In fluoric acid, it is out of fear of responsibility, or for him, each woman, they're different and he would like to enjoy many women and he can't restrict himself to one. That is very clear in fluoric acid. Now, sticking to that point that I've spoken, I would like to quote something that I have taken from Dr. Banja's Materia Medica. Now, why did I bring this image here? Now, this image tells us about honeybee. Now, from your knowledge, honey bee collects honey. As a student, we are studying this. Now, why fluoric acid? Now, see, fluoric acid is like the honey bee, and flower is the beautiful girl. With due respects, what you need to understand in Flouric Acid is he goes from one lady to another lady, fine, and he takes what he wants and he immediately hops, jumps to another lady, like this typical honeybee. It goes to one flower, it collects the honey, and it immediately goes to another flower. Fine. So this is the comparison that Dr. Banja gives in his Materia Medica, and you can beautifully apply this in your practice tomorrow. You have men who keeps changing partners, who are not committed into a relationship, and they're more worried about the physical thing. You know, you should think of Flouric Acid. We will talk of the sexuality of Flouric Acid a little later. This is another very important thing that you have in our Materia Medicas. Dr. Kent has beautifully described Flouric Acid. Now, what do you see? Must be the girls, the women who are listening to today's class, they would have come up with such awkward situations. They know some certain eyes are looking at certain areas which we should not look at. Fine. So, Flouric Acid. See, there are people who admire different things. There are people who say your eyes, your hair, and unfortunately, I'm sorry to tell, Flouric Acid will not admire all those things. Flouric Acid has something else that you'll be admiring, and the girl will not be very, very comfortable with. Okay, so ogling at women. They might stand in the corner of street and they might be looking at women at wrong areas which will embarrass the women. And Flouric Acid may not feel anything. Fine. So ogling at women and thoughts sexual. See, when he looks at a woman, the first thing that comes up in a Flouric Acid mind is, getting physical with her. So thoughts which are sexual, and they are the kind of people who keep having amorous thoughts, sexual thoughts, lascivious thoughts about women. Now, again, Flouric Acid can also get into homosexual relationships. See that anchoring thing that we were trying to tell, forget about the attachments. See the kind of change he wants. Many times they are not satisfied with women. They would like to explore having sexual relationship with opposite sex. So that's also what you have in Flouric Acid. Okay, the sexuality, the sexual part. Probably this is something that many of us are aware. Okay, so I thought I'll just repeat it so that it remains in your mind for a longer period. Now I have a question for you, and what is this question? Can Flouric Acid be a typical family man? A word of question. I told you, yes, Flouric Acid can marry. But my question to you is, can Flouric Acid be a typical family man? At least the listeners who are married, you know, it's a huge commitment, marriage. Fine. Now, when I'm talking of a typical family man, the ladies they can understand what exactly my question is. Now, unfortunately, Flouric Acid wants change. He may not be happy with you for a long period. He needs another woman. He gets bored. Okay, so he is not a kind of a guy who want to take up responsibility, and that's what I was trying to tell you. Many Flouric Acid husbands they might be postponing to have kids. Okay, fine. They might be married, but they might be postponing to have kids because for them, kids it's a huge responsibility. And Flouric Acid is not the only remedy. You have other remedies also. Fine, but do remember, Flouric Acid they have very bad fear of responsibilities, and they want to be free. Fine. So it also amounts to responsibility. It also amounts to change that they want to be free. and they want to enjoy life to the fullest. Very selfish, very self-centric, and people who cannot manage finances, they spend beyond the capacity and mainly for themselves. Okay, so they're very selfish. Yes, they're very materialistic. Fine. See, many of the husbands might have a shade of all these things. Fine. Probably a high dose of fluoric acid can make a lot of changes. Fine. And marriage requires a lot of loyalty. You'll have to be faithful to your partner, which a fluoric acid can never ever commit. They're not loyal, and again, they are the kind of people who don't care. Fine. And yeah, there's no commitment. So all these factors will also conclude to the fact that fluoric acid cannot be a typical family man. Okay, we'll go ahead. We'll also comment on how a fluoric acid child will be. Again, from what I've learned from Vijay sir, from his face, from his facial expression, you can understand that they're very flirtatious. Kids who get into sexual activities at very young age. Kids who are not attached to their family. Mother is sick, father is sick, fine, sister is sick. They don't bother. They don't care. They're very selfish people. Everybody should do to them. Everybody should cater to his needs, but he would never cater to others' need. Very selfish, okay, and not caring when mother or father is sick, not caring and not being attached. Sir says even to his own toy, no, he might play for a few minutes, few seconds, and then he's not bothered about it. Even that attachment in a child to a toy, new toy, is not seen. Okay, and this is a beautiful point I learned from sir, that children who keep missing often, for example in fair, from school they would have missed, they would have gone somewhere, you know, and children who can comfortably live without their parents in their relatives house, in their friend's house, they can live fine, they can live very comfortably. They're not that clingy kind of children. For example, we have pulse, we have chamomilla, we have calcarea, we have borax. They cling to mother. Fluoric acid is not a clingy child. He can live without his mother or without his father. Fine. Wants to get away from home. I told you of a rubric. And fluoric acid also has a delusion that his marriage should dissolve. And I was trying to tell you the emotional quotient in fluoric acid is zero. There is no room for sentiments. Fine. Like for example, you have girls who have the boyfriend who would have given them the first chocolate, that chocolate wrapper they would have kept in book. You would have known of girls who keep the flower, the first rose flower, years back. Some boy would have given, they would have kept it and see, this is the first flower you gave. Or they would have gone to the movie, the first ticket, half, it would have been preserved very carefully. Now, these are the girls, the boys who are very sentimental. Fluoric acid is not a sentimental type. He is not worried about the wrapper. He is worried more about the content. I hope you understand. Like, he keeps changing girls, and for him, that wrapper, that ticket, fine, that rose, all that will not make any difference. He's a very practical man, fine. He knows what he wants, he takes it. Go back to that honeybee example that I gave you, and they want to live life to the fullest. That is fluoric acid for you. So, in the nutshell, we'll just have a small, quick recap what we have understood, and I'll be very happy if you keep the case in mind and if you start linking what we are trying to tell. Again, if you go back to the case that I discussed, this man again was a very ambitious man, so is our fluoric acid. is a man who has no attachments. Okay, there is no anchoring. Fine, and is a man who is very indifferent. He would not care what happens to his family, what happens to his wife. Fine, so indifference was very much marked, and that physical thing wherein you would have multiple relationships. Fine, so those are few things that were in favor of Flouric Acid. As discussed, mind and body. So we will look at those characteristic symptoms related to the body. Okay. Now, one very important thing you have in Flouric Acid. Uh, I had a case of a gentleman who would work continuously for 7 days and he would not feel tired. Okay. So this is what I was trying to highlight here. Increase ability to exercise his muscles without going into weakness or without going into fatigue. Now this is very, very strongly seen in Flouric Acid. All acids, if you remember, they have debility. This is the only acid where we don't see debility. So people who come to you, like who are frequent flyers and they don't have jet lag. From India, they would have traveled to America, and they're okay, they're cool, and their body clock starts working perfectly fine. They don't feel tired. Okay, this same thing also applies to the sexuality in Flouric Acid. Many times, Flouric Acid is compared to untiring horse. A horse who doesn't get tired. Same with Flouric Acid. You can have sex with multiple partners in a single day and is ready for another lady. Fine. So that is a kind of strength a Flouric Acid will have. Okay. So highly energetic, never gets tired, and these are the few examples I was trying to tell you. Jet lag, they do night duty and again morning duty they can do night shift, morning shift, very little sleep, and they're comfortable. So you can think of Flouric Acid. And probably from here you can see the mind. It can somewhere help you to connect there. Okay. So similarly, extreme winter. Must be should have heard of patients telling, Doctor, Germany minus 20, minus 30. I am very comfortable with a shirt and a small sweater. I don't need room heaters. I don't need big jackets. So people who can tolerate winter or people who can very easily tolerate summer. In Dubai, fine, here, there, in Rajasthan, 48, 50. I'm cool. I don't feel the heat. So this is also very much marked in Flouric Acid. So he is less affected by excessive heat or cold in winter. Now, as I was trying to tell you, a small sleep can cause uh, the energy levels to get back. You have a rubric under generalities. Short sleep ameliorates, and Flouric Acid is one remedy mentioned there. So, half an hour, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, he sleeps and then he can come back with a bang. Okay, the energy levels come back. I was talking to you about the corroding nature. Even emotionally, there is so much of corrosion. Physically, also, you see a lot of corrosion. Now, what is it that corrodes? The discharges, the sweat. The sweat in Flouric Acid is very, very corroding. Okay, the discharges from the nose, the leukorrhea, they are very, very corroding. Okay, especially corroding sweat, acrid sweat, you have it in Flouric Acid. Probably you can also talk of ulcers here. You can talk of discharges from the ulcers which are corroding. You can think of Flouric Acid. Another very important thing here is that it's again a very important remedy for varicose in women who have given birth to many kids. Pregnant women who have given birth to many kids previously, they can have varicosity. And yes, yeah, this is a very practical point. Nails which grow too fast. Okay, and hair also grows very fast. This can be important, and we also have the desires. They like very spicy, pungent things, alcohol, and there's no deep acting medicine in Materia Medica than Flouric Acid. I've taken this from Dr. Dunham. I was talking to you about the physiological action of Flouric Acid, where exactly it acts, the nerves, the CNS, the CVS, the bones. Okay, here acting on bones, it can cause caries, very prominent, very prominent. Okay, and overworked men having nervous affections, you can think of Flouric Acid. Softening of brain from nervous affections, you can think of Flouric Acid. So I hope you got a picture of Flouric Acid, and I hope this will help you understand Flouric Acid better, and hope you get cases, and you can think of Flouric Acid, in cases that you get in your clinic in your future practice. Thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you.